शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तः पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। So today, as part of the introduction to Vedanta, so this particular course which you are seeing now is like a canvas, is like a 30,000 feet above sea level, about all the aspects which you need to know at some point of time or the other. It includes various topics we have seen. We have talked about Maya, we have talked about qualities, many things we talked about in the last nine classes. So today we are going to discuss about bhakti and how important bhakti is in Vedanta. As many of you have heard before or would have studied, bhakti is one of the disciplines. So when you say discipline, it's actually a method or one of the means for preparing a person for study of the scripture. Now there are different schools of thoughts in bhakti. Bhakti school of philosophy has been there for many years. It is not a new thing. So the word bhakti itself has been understood in terms of what it means. The word bhakti comes from the root called bhaj or bhajate. That means to pray or to sing praise of the Lord. So bhajan. So in bhakti, bhajan is an integral form of or integral part in bhakti. So there's always a prayer which is mixed in the bhajan. So whenever you sing any praise of the Lord, there's always an implied request for the Bhagavan to take care of you. Why would you want to do bhakti when you don't need it? But we all need bhakti. We all need to be devoted. So devotion, premaha, all are same meaning. So when I say premaha means love, affection. Then devotion. All these are words, but they all mean the same thing. So one may have love for the Lord, one may have affection for the Lord, one may have devotion for the Lord. All of them are always the same. There is an inherent prayer present in these things. A prayer or a bhakti is done mainly because the person always is a limited person. As a jiva, so who does the prayer? Always the jiva is the person who does the prayer. Bhagavan doesn't do the prayer. We do the prayer or we do bhakti towards an object. Now bhakti itself can be towards the Bhagavan, or bhakti itself can be devoted to other objects of pursuit. depending upon the intellectual maturity of the person. Let us say that there are 4 types of devotees present in or classified in the Bhagavad Gita. First is called the Artha Bhakta. Artha Bhaktaha. So Artha Bhaktaha is a person who is a Bhaktaha, a devotee, who has no faith in the Bhagavan. He has gone through some difficulty or is going through some difficulty. Somehow he stumbles upon another person who goes to the temple. And he says, why are you going to the temple? He says, I'm going there to pray. So why do you want to pray? He said, I got this desire to fulfill and I'm not able to do this. And I want Bhagavan to help me in this achievement. So this Artha Bhakta asked, oh, so do you think Bhagavan will also help me? Yes, come and do prayer, he will help you. So this Artha Bhakta goes there for a specific desire in mind. Mind you, he has got no connection with Bhagavan, he has never understood temple, he doesn't know anything about it. According to him, at the moment he needs some help. So he goes to the temple there and whatever is to be done by this person, he does it. And then he comes back. After that, he may or may not go to different things. So it's called Artha Bhaktaha, a person who goes to the Bhagavan when there is a distress or a person who is actually in trouble. Called Artha Bhaktaha. So there are, we know, I'm pretty sure you would also seen across many people who just go temple because they have problems. They may not have any faith or confidence in getting anything solved, but because they're helpless, they're choiceless. So a prayer is always an expression of helplessness or choicelessness. In a prayer, you are always asking for something. There's always an asking or a request for something or the other. Depending upon what a person wants or what maturity level a person has got, the prayer can be different. Then the second category of people who we have is called Artharthi Bhaktaha. Artharthi Bhaktaha. Artha Bhaktaha, Artharthi Bhaktaha. So you should make notes because all these things will come in Bhagavad Gita also later on. I mean, I'm not forcing you. I can speak, but for you to refer, so many things are there. You may not remember 100% of what I say. So, Artharthi Bhaktaha. So, this Bhakta is a nice person, a good person, and he has got some belief that there is a Bhagavan. There is something which is not in my capability. I cannot do this, and I need some help from an external person, and that person cannot be a human being. It cannot be my friend. It cannot be somebody because they are also in the same boat as me. So I have to go to someone else for help and assistance. So he knows what Bhagavan is to some extent. He knows that there's somebody, the temple there, and there are different murtis are there, and my own Ishtamurti is Shiva or Ganesha or Durga, whatever you are praying. So I'll go and pray to the Bhagavan for help. So he goes there and prays. But when the prayer also, see the Artha Bhakta doesn't expect anything because he is not interested. He says, I'm coming here for help and that's it. He doesn't have any prayer per se or anything like this. But the Artha Bhakta has got an agenda in mind. He goes there for a specific purpose. It can be for puri masala, it can be for laddu, or it can be for getting dosa from the temple. It can be for anything. Because he has seen, if I go at 8 o'clock, I'll be able to get dosa, I can worship the Bhagavan, I can get 2 things, I'll get both. So this example. But this bhakta is a little bit different. He has got some agenda where he has got some issues about, some personal life. Maybe he wants a promotion in his job. Maybe he wants his son to get married, or his son should get good marks in HSC, good HETR should be there. So he goes to every temple, every Bhagavan he prays, Shani Bhagavan, he does the prayer and says, look, I am willing to come every day, every week to the temple for next 1 year, and I will do all these things for you, but you take care of me. By taking care of what? That you let my son get married in a good Kurukula, let my daughter-in-law feel from a good, Indian background. Somebody who understands this. He's not from some other culture. All these are, they're all hidden things which are there. So everybody has got different, prayers. So they all go there and he says, if you do this for me, I will do this for you. So he says, I will come and donate maybe, $1,000, or I will, break 100 coconuts. So it is a commitment, it is an agreement between you and the Bhagavan in some way or the other. Bhagavan doesn't mind. He says, okay, you come to me with some problem and I'll solve the problem for you. Whether he solves the problem, it is not this, because ultimately it is your own understanding what the Bhagavan can do or not do. There's no Bhagavan there who can solve your problem. Shastra, according to Swamiji, there's a book called You Are the Problem, You Are the Solution. There's nobody else can solve your problem, only you can solve your problem. Because everybody else is also dealing with their own problems. They are waiting for someone to come and solve their problems. If a person had no problems, then you don't need to go anywhere and ask anybody. But everybody has got problems. They are unhappy in some way or the other. So they are all in search. They are all in some different levels of prayer. Some will be advanced level of prayer. Some will be lower level of prayer. They are all in different types of prayer. So the Artharthi Bhaktaha is somebody who is a religious person, who is systematic, he prays every day, but then he also has an agreement with the Bhagavan saying that, okay, you do this for me, I will do this for you. Somebody will say, I'll go to Tirupati and I will donate anonymously some gold, etc. So you got black money, etc. You do not want to disclose anything to somebody. So you just say, I will go and do this. So this is called Artharthi Bhakta, negotiation. Bhagavan is okay with that. As long as you are Bhakta, I am fine. Then the third type of Bhakta is called the Jigyasu Bhaktaha. Jigyasu Bhaktaha. So this person is different from the other two. This person also has had the same problem before, and he would have been an Artha Bhakta before. Then he would have graduated from Artha to Artharthi Bhakta, where he had negotiated something between the Bhagavan, and maybe the Bhagavan did something for him or her. Something happened. Sometimes when you go to temple, you say, I was doing all these things for so many years. My prayers are answered. Now I got everything there. In fact, it is already ordained for you. It is not like, of course, the prayer will be there, will help you to some extent. What does it help you? Your mind will be a bit clear. You will be a little bit more satisfied that I have actually offloaded everything of a problem to somebody. And if somebody is going to take care of the problem and it solves in some way or the other, then you connect saying that because I did this, it happened like this. But your Prarabdha Karma already has got all these things. Some people have already told me that they have been doing for so many years, still everything is going pear-shaped. Nothing works for them. So they lose trust in Bhagavan. He says, what is this Bhagavan? I've been praying for so many days, so many hours I've been doing this. Nothing is working for me. So there's something wrong I don't know. So there is no trust, there's no faith in the prayer. The prayer has to be intense, it has to be systematic, it has to be consistent, it has to have a purpose. So this is the Jignasu Bhakta, the third type of Bhakta, where he has already outgrown or is grown from Artha to Artharthi. He is no longer interested in negotiating. He doesn't come to the temple anymore to ask for anything or look for specific things. He just wants to come and look. When you look at a temple, when you go to the particular deity where he's worshipping, it can be Muruga, it can be Shiva, whoever it is. He will just come and say, "Who are you?" So he is asking a question, "Who are you? I want to know who you are." So this is the prayer of the Jignasu Bhakta, where he is coming now not for any material benefits. He's not coming anything for other things. His only purpose in life is now to know, are you real God or are you something there? Who are you? And why do so many people worship you and I am also worshipping you? What is the purpose of my worship? What is the purpose of my coming here? And how do I know you? Are you a real person? Are you Ishvara? Are you Bhagavan? What is this prapancha? What am I doing here? All these questions come to the mind of the person. So he's a person who comes and asks these kind of questions, and he comes to the temple or he comes for this. Such a person, when he asks a question, when he has been doing this internally or outside, you need not go to temple to ask this question. You can be asking this question in your own mind, which is a temple. See, your own body is a temple. And in your own mind, you have been asking these questions internally whenever you are quiet and not thinking about anything else. These thoughts come to you. This also is a prayer. Thoughts come to you and you are recollecting your thoughts also is a prayer. So what am I doing really here in this world? Am I going to die like this? One day I will just pass away like this. Is there anything else for me to know in this world before I go away? What are all these things there? What is Bhagavad Gita? What is these people saying? All these things come to you. And then you ponder about these things. This also is an inquisitive mind. So the Jignasu Bhakta is different from the other two Bhaktas. Because his interest is no longer knowing the objective world. He now is interested to know the truth of the world itself. That means he first wants to understand what this Jagat is. Who Ishvara is, what Maya is, everything. And then from there he will come ultimately to discover the truth of one's own self. Then that comes to the fourth type of devotee called the Jnani. Jnani. So Jignasu and Jnani. So every Jignasu who will one day become a Jnani. It is guaranteed. So you're all Jignasu Bhakta now. So there is a desire. There is a desire in you, all of you, to know something. There is some seeking, there is some search somewhere about something which is incomplete in your life. If it is a complete life, everything was very happy, then you wouldn't even bother studying, you wouldn't even bother looking at it. See, there are two things. First of all, you should be aware about certain things. Then only the interest will come to you. If you're not aware about anything, then it will not even strike you. If I tell you an example, a cow with 6 legs, I will tell you. Visualize a cow with 6 legs. You will not visualize because it is something which you've never seen before. So you would not be interested to know, why should I know about a 6-leg cow? I only know a 4-leg cow. So there has to be, first of all, an interest, and that thought has to rise in your mind. Vritti has to come to your mind, and that thought has to be, churning. Like your questions are coming, there are a lot of questions churning your mind right now. All these things are required for vicharaha, Atmavicharaha is very important. So this fourth devotee we talk about is called the Jnanihi, or the wise person. This person, when he comes to the temple or when he goes to pray, he doesn't have anything called prayer. Jignasu Bhakta has got prayer. What is the prayer? He says, "Hey Bhagavan, my prayer is for you to reveal your truth to me. Reveal the truth of the universe to me. Reveal who I am, what I'm doing here, what is my connection with the universe." All these questions are asked by the person as a prayer. So this person chants Rudram, Chamakam, all this, different types of chanting is does, and invariably everything is a prayer, asking is there. So due to the prayer, intensity of the prayer being there, and the search being there, the Bhagavan says, okay, I think now you need probably a teacher or a guru. Because the Bhagavan cannot be known other than Shastra. Who the Lord is, or what the universe is, what is his creation, what is his manifestation, why it is like this, or why it is not like this, who created this, when it will end, how long is the universe, how long is it there, all the questions are there in your mind. Now you go and ask the Bhagavan, he is not going to say anything to you. You will keep asking this, he will give a stare blank to you, he will go back home saying that I asked something, I didn't get anything, or I'll keep going asking. So this keeping going and asking is the one which is called intensive prayer. So there your only prayer is to know. Is it correct? It is the only desire you have. You do not have any other desire. At the moment you are not interested in property, you are not interested in anything else. He says, Bhagavan, you have given me enough property, you have given me enough job, I've got good facility, children, education, everything I got. But I still don't have something which I don't know. So there's something which I need to know. So this is the prayer. So this prayer is one of the exalted prayers a person can have. And due to this prayer being exalted, the person is blessed with a teacher. The teacher does not go to the student comes to the teacher automatically. When the time is right, the right teacher will be there for you. It is Satyam. You may go after teacher after teacher after teacher, you may search for different gurus. But then you will not be able to find that person because you do not know what you're searching for, number one. So if your searching is true, then the Bhagavan or your own prayers, which are sincere in prayer, the results of that is Drishtafalam, Adrishtafalam we talked about. So Drishtafalam is the direct benefit you're getting is Atma Shantihi. Look, I have actually gone and prayed, I have done everything what I can, and my search is still there, but it is something I cannot do anything about it. I left everything to the Bhagavan. So you are satisfied now that there is nothing in my chest right now, everything I offloaded to the Bhagavan. And this Jignasu also is a Karma Yogi. Remember that. Jignasu is a Karma Yogi. So Karma Yoga topic you should remember. The Pancha Buddhi we talked about, he is there. So he does the Karma Yoga, he does everything towards the offering to the Bhagavan, surrender to the Lord, Ishwarapana Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi, Samattva Buddhi, Swadhyaya Buddhi, all the things are there. Correct? Sudharma Buddhi, all the Pancha Buddhis are there. So he does activities, lives like according to Dharma, follows Karma Yoga, does systematic prayers religiously, asks for Jnanam, asks for knowledge about the Bhagavan, about the universe, about one's own, who I am, all this, who am I? Question. So this question is the one which he asks every time you go to temple there, or every time he worships somewhere there. He doesn't ask anything else. He's not interested in asking anything else. So for the prayer, the Bhagavan blesses him, or the prayer results him or her in leading to a teacher who is ready to teach the person or give Brahma Vidya or show who the Bhagavan is. So we always have Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Guru who is the Brahma, Guru is Vishnu, Guru is Maheshwara, and who is Guru? Sakshat Param Brahma. So the Guru does not speak anything other than the Shastra. So, and Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Front to the teacher, my Namaskar heart. So this is also a prayer, a bhakti prayer, where he is seeking for jnanam. And who is going to give jnanam? It will be a teacher only. It will be a teacher. The Bhagavan is not going to come and give him direct jnanam there. It has to come, he has to come through some mode. So the Guru is a method. And the Guru uses the means called Shastram. The Shastram is the method or the means by which the Guru communicates the message to the students. So in the process of, unfolding the truth, the student now becomes a bit wiser. From Jignasu Bhaktaha, he moves towards Jnana Marga. So at some point of time, he will become a wise person. It can happen tomorrow. It can happen after 1 year. After 3 years, 60 years it can happen. It can never happen also. It's because it depends upon the person's interest, it depends upon the Shraddha, it depends upon the commitment and the pursuit of knowledge, which is intense. All of them are required for a person to achieve this. Because the study is actually Atma Jnana, it is about one's own self. There is no other subject, there is no textbook available here. You can go and you cannot study about who you are from another book. The person who wrote the book also would have referred some other text. Then only written. So you need a teacher, you need a guru for that. That's why we always also have a verse in the Mandaka Upanishad, Tadvidyatam Sagurumeva Abhigacchati. So Tadvidyatam Sagurumeva Samitpanihi Abhigacchati Shrotyam Brahmanishtam. So it gives the qualification of the guru also. So the Vidya Tadvidyata Gurumeva. So that the student has to go to the teacher with a burning desire. Samitpanihi. See, in the olden days, Samitpanihi means in the olden days, the guru used to live in the ashram. And there's always some homam, some rituals will be there. And the student is supposed to take anything to the guru which is required. But he says the minimum requirement is that you should at least take a samit or dry sticks which are required. Why dry sticks? Why not wet sticks? The dry sticks are supposed to be carried. It says Samitpanihi means what? In the olden days, they'll take a stick like this. He will run. He will run towards a teacher, to the guru, saying that I want to learn. The symbolism behind this is a dry stick will catch fire quickly, correct? So if you got dry stick on your head and there's a burning desire for it to learn, it will catch fire quickly. Is that right? It doesn't matter whether we have a hair or not, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. It has got nothing to do with this because the fire, penetrates everything. So it will catch fire quickly. So Samitpanihi, when he says, see all the Shastram, why it tastes like this? they will run because they do not want the head to catch fire. So before the head catches fire, before it explodes, they want to go and offload it to the Guru, saying that I'm ready now. And the offering of Samit to the Guru, the teacher, is a symbolic expression of saying that, look, I've got a burning desire, burning knowledge, and if I keep this along with me, it will burn. So I want you to structure it. So that is the meaning. So the Guru also understands, even then the teacher also understands, oh yeah, I know you want to know a lot of things about it, and your desire, burning desire, you want to learn everything very quickly, but you wait. What does he do? He'll go there. The Guru doesn't call him for lecture. He says, can you please go and do my gardening? Can you wash my clothes? Can you do this? The student is disappointed. I came here for knowledge and you're asking me to do all these things. The teacher says you'll have to have resilience, because in knowledge, when it is there, when you got desire which is burning, right? You want to do so many things. But then you have to calm down. You have to come down to a level where it is, your mind is actually peaceful. Because the subject which is being taught is so subtle and so difficult, and very, very, hidden things are there. Guhyam. So for that, one's thoughts has to be controlled. One's thoughts has to come from such a fast speed to a lower speed. So all the activities which the person does in the Gurukulam is for the Guru to test whether the student has got resilience or not. Some people say, see, 6 months he has been washing clothes. Nothing is going to happen. He's not going to teach me anything. One day he disappears. The Guru also doesn't bother because he's not ready. See, somebody disappears, somebody doesn't want to attend or whatever it is. He doesn't mind because it is one's own choice whether you want to attend or not attend. The Guru doesn't need any, like you ask a question, Kushalji, why does Brahman has to manifest? So, Guru doesn't need to manifest, doesn't have to tell anything because it's not required. But unless, if you want knowledge to be known, then there has to be manifesting medium. So student has to be there for the knowledge to manifest. Otherwise, knowledge will be there in the person as unmanifest. All the rishis who are there, why did they do all this Veda, etc.? They did Veda Prachara mainly because they do not want this knowledge only to be themselves. They want the world to benefit from all these things. They wanted the world to follow all these things so that the tradition of mentoring is followed. Otherwise, this would have ended long time ago. Along with the rishis, many billions of years ago who had been there, they've all been gone there. So it says, Tad Vigyartam Sagurumeva Amit Panihi Abhigachati. Means he goes there. And to whom does he go? He goes to the Guru who is a Shrotriyam, Shrotriyaha. Shrotriyaha means a Guru who has learned from a teacher systematically and from a live teacher. Not somebody who's in a photo, not from a CD, not from an MP3 player, not from a book. He or she would have been learning, would have learned already from a teacher who is live in flesh and blood. So one of the qualities of the Guru, that the Guru has to be Shrotriyaha. I mean, he would have, so if at all you find somebody saying that I'm a self-taught person, if you say this, then you should just do namaskar to the person, says, thank you very much. I know you're a good person, you're self-taught, but I don't want to learn from you. You don't say that, you can walk away. So you look for the person who is a Shrotriya, who has learned from a teacher and also has got a method of teaching which is not contradicting your belief. The teaching should not be contradicting your belief. It should not be intimidating. It must not be unethical. All these things are important. And the communication should be only through the Shastra. The Guru does not communicate anything other than what the Shastram says. He cannot say it is my own idea. See, it is my own theory, my own assumption. I have come up with this unique idea of presenting things. It is my version of what the Bhagavad Gita is. No. It is the same thing to be taught, same language be taught, same words be taught, everything from textbook, without any alteration, without any modification, and in full. You cannot hold back saying, oh, the student is very brilliant. Let me just hold something back. No. You have to give everything required in 100% total. Then Brahmanishta. So Brahmanishta, he means a person who is committed to the Nishtaha, means what? Discipline. Pursuit. And what pursuit? Brahmanishtaha. A person who is committed to the pursuit of Brahman, a pursuit of knowing what consciousness is, or who has already understood what consciousness is, and who is reveling in this Anandaha. Such a person is the Guru. So Guru Bhakti is the third one. So when coming to Bhakti topic, see, all these are connected. See, I'm crisscrossing from Bhakti to Guru, Guru to something else. So because the topic is all Bhakti and Guru all put together. You cannot have Bhakti to anybody unless you have values, unless you believe in something. Pati Bhakti also is important. Pati Bhakti important what? Because you should be able to contribute. Right? The wife should see you as, oh my God, my husband is a contributor and he takes care of me very well and his interest is, so there's a Bhakti. Patni Bhakti also is important because Parasparaha is important. So all this, what it talks about is Bhakti is prema, affection, love, compassion, acceptance, forbearance. All these things are put together is Bhakti. So Bhakti can be classified into two types. Antara Bhaktihi, Bahya Bhaktihi. Antara Bhaktihi, Bahya Bhaktihi. Antara Bhaktihi means inner Bhaktihi or Bhakti towards objects which are inside of you or those which is inner to you. Bahya Bhaktihi is Bhakti towards objects which are outside of you. So, Antara Bhaktihi, Bahya Bhaktihi. So, Bhakti, you can put one topic there. You can put two lines. Then, Antara Bhaktihi can be classified again as Anya Bhaktihi, Ananya Bhaktihi. Anya Bhaktihi, Ananya Bhaktihi. Bahya Bhakti also can be classified as Anya Bhaktihi, also called Apara Bhaktihi. Apara Bhaktihi. So Bahya Bhakti is always Apara Bhaktihi. It can never be Ananya Bhakti. So Apara Bhaktihi and Anya Bhaktihi. Then in the Antara Bhaktihi, under the term called Anya Bhaktihi, you add a line called Para Bhaktihi. Para Bhakti. So these are the types of or the various aspects of Bhakti which are there. Now, each of them will discuss in the next class about what bhakti is classified, what is Anya Bhakti, what is Ananya Bhakti, what is Bahya Bhakti, Antara Bhakti, what is Para Bhakti, Apara Bhakti, and with an example to see how all this get connected to each other. Then after that, we'll go to Anya Bhakti. There are different types of bhakti also there. There are 9 types of bhakti given in Bhagavatam. It's called Navada Bhakti. Navada Bhakti were 9 different types of bhakti, which is practiced internally and externally also, depending upon the school of thought. As I told you, bhakti philosophy is a school of thought. It is a means of knowledge. It is not the end itself. There are bhakti schools of thoughts which tell you that bhakti is the only way of attaining moksha. You don't need jnanam at all. Bhakti alone is important. So we need to understand whether this is true or not. If I just do bhakti alone, will I get moksha? And where is bhakti realized? And what does bhakti lead to has to be understood. Is it clear? As you can see, a small topic like bhakti is so elaborate. In Narada Bhakti Sutra, he has given 84 sutras in given bhakti. 84 sutras. And out of that, he has given 64 things a bhakta should not do. 64 different activities a bhakta should not do if you are a bhakta at all. Some people say, I don't want to be called a bhakta. I hate people called, he's Rama Bhakta, Hanuman Bhakta, Pati Bhakta, Patni Bhakta. I hate to be called in this. In fact, you should be proud that if you are called a bhakta means you should be proud to earn the name that I am a bhakta. Because bhakti, without bhakti, there cannot be jnanam. But bhakti alone will not lead to jnanam. Bhakti is a means for getting jnanam. It is a sadhanam for getting jnanam because bhakti only prepares you for jnanam. It prepares your mind. It calms your mind. It gives you focus. Then it prepares the right qualities, the right virtues, the values required for a person to be a wise person. So there are no things called Karma Yoga will take you to moksha, Bhakti Yoga will take you to moksha, Kriya Yoga will take you to moksha, Jnanam will take you to moksha. There's only one way. Just as when you go to the temple. See, in South India, I don't know if you go to South India temple, Kushalji, if you go to South India temple, right, there are 4 different entrances to the temple. You can enter the temple from 4 different directions. There are north, south, east, and west. The Garbhagraha, the Sanctum Sanctorum, is the middle of the temple. It is somewhere in the middle of the whole Gopuram, the arch is there, right? It's somewhere in the middle. So people can enter from whichever, and in the olden days, the temple itself is a kilometer, 2 kilometers big temple. The whole city sometimes will be here, self-sufficient city. And the entrance of the temple will be from, it will rain to streets. So you can say from that street you can enter. So some people will be living there. So people are living in that part of the locality, they'll enter only from that side. People are living here, they'll enter from this side. So they all converge from different areas. But ultimately when they come to the area, they have to come to a narrow place. At that time, all these different directions, different things which are coming, their ideas, etc., they have to drop it. And they have to come and form one line. And when they go to one line, only one person can go there and worship because it's so tiny and narrow. You cannot enter there. So from multitude of options you've got, finally you come down to where? Come down, narrowed, you come to one. So jnanam is like this. You can have multiple things as sadhanam, you can have different ideas. But when coming to sanctum sanctorum garbha there can be only one way. You cannot say I'll have 2 lines. You can have 2 lines, but then you still have to go only one direction. You'll have to meet. Either you go this way, you still have to go to the Bhagavan there to see the Bhagavan. You go from that side, you still have to go see Bhagavan. You can come that side, but still you still have to go only to one place. So that one place which you go, the temple or the Garbha is the Bhagavan is Jnana, Jnana Murtihi. So when people say that Bhakti Yoga will take you this way, Jnana Yoga will take you this way, Karma Yoga will take you this way, Kundalini Yoga will take you this way, all these people say. But there's no, all these things are only means. And the methods, the only way of attaining Jnana is that these are all sadhanam, they are all means are required for one to achieve Jnana. You got it? Any question from today's class? Anyone has got?
Not me.
Shalji, you're following, you're okay today so far?
I'm okay.
Shriramji, you're okay? Bhavaniji, you're okay so far?
Yeah, okay.
Shrikant, New Zealand, any questions? You're okay so far? It's actually 11 o'clock this time. It's very past this time.
No questions as of now, sir.
Okay. Shriramji, you're okay?
I'm okay, thanks.
Okay. So we will stop the class here for today, and we will continue our topic on Bhakti next class, followed by Guru Mahima. Also we'll discuss the students, or the Adhikari student also will discuss. And that probably should culminate at least the end of this particular class or this particular session. Then we go into the fundamentalist class, which is different, where we'll start reading some text, some small text, some Sanskrit will be required, but nothing to worry about it. If you don't need Sanskrit, it's okay. I'll read it for you, I'll explain to you in English. You can translate in English. Nothing like this. Okay, but there's still time. At least another 3-4 classes are there still till you get to that place. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tatsat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste and Shubhratri to all of you. See, tomorrow we have a class 7:30 p.m. Purusha Suktam with Bhashyaha. I sent the Bhashyam to the group as well. So those people who want to attend, they can attend. Because we'll be learning chanting, I'll be chanting there as well. It will be a detailed class. It will not be just a skimmed class. It will have a lot of meanings in the again the same thing. It will be talking about bhakti. It will talk about the cosmos, the creation, manifestation, Purushaha, all things will be there. So Purusha Suktam is not just a text; it's a Vedantic text. So for those people who sing just as a praise of Bhagavan, it is just not it. It is it's a complete text. It is a Vedantic text. It gives a full nutshell of the whole Bhagavan, whole Srishti, creation, everything it gives. So the whole Bhakti philosophy is there, Advaitam is there, Dvaitam is there, all put together, everything. Saguna Brahman is Nirguna Brahman, all things are there. In fact, it is said that a person who doesn't know Purusha Suktam and Rudram, it is mandatory. It is mandatory for a person to know if you are into that particular line of thinking. Yes, Kushalji. You had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Now that you mentioned the Sanskrit chanting, would it be a good idea to join a beginner's class, just like you said, to prepare your mind and
This is a beginner's class. Basically,
calm your mind down?
yeah, see that class actually is, I mean, some people already know, like Shriramji knows, a few people know already know. I'm pretty sure some people already know this. But for people who don't know at all, you can at least learn. You can at least learn chanting. You can at least practice chanting that. And it is not actually a Tamil text, or it is not a. It is a text of the Bhagavan. It's chanted in every temple, every rituals. See, the South Indians have a different tune. So Rig Veda. If you go to the north, they have a different way of chanting. The tunes are different, but the content is the same. The content is the same. The method of chanting can vary because it depends upon the practice or the area where they're coming from. So
for your beginners class, for someone like me who has no background in Sanskrit at all, or in any of these texts at all, but as you said, it's a way to prepare your mind and to calm your mind. Do you think it's worth it to join the beginners class if you have one, or if there's one going, or can you just start up anywhere?
We have a chanting class at the moment. We are running on Saturdays. Saturday we have 3 classes. So I have 3 classes on Saturdays. This is chanting class. We have got a beginners class, which is half an hour class, 5 to 5:30 to 6. So I have people joining from who are 11 years old till 73 years of age. So there are students who are that range of people are there. So they have been learning for the last 2 years now. So 1.5, 2 years now. So they have learned from basics. They follow their own text, so they don't follow Sanskrit. Some follow Sanskrit, some follow Malayalam, some people Tamil. But I correct them in whichever language they learn. I correct them in Sanskrit only. So they'll have to follow my way of teaching only. You may, because when somebody speaks in their local language, right, or their local, the pronunciation can be different. So I make them correct. I make them repeat. So it's a slow class. So
is it a drop-in class? Can I just show up for the beginners class?
Yeah, you can show up. There's no problem. Right now I'm teaching them Rudram at the moment. Rudram class.
Okay, all right.
So you can come in on Saturday at 5:30. I send you the timings. The text also, if you want English, I can send you text in English. You can follow. Because not everybody, see, all the people there, they don't know Sanskrit. They are following only Tamil, English, or Malayalam. So do not be afraid that you are the only person Sanskrit. I read from Sanskrit because I know, so I read. But everybody else read from their own dialect, which is they're comfortable with. So you are more than welcome to join that class. This is a beginners class. Right now I'm doing on Zoom at the moment because I got students who are from overseas as well. They dial from other countries as well. So you can then send a recording to the class. The people they actually practice recording. So the class is being recorded and I send them the recording. Then they read the text. They practice the recording with what I've sent. Then they come to the next class. I make them repeat again. So that's how it is. So the first.
Can I ask one last question?
Yes.
Just one last one. Just for this preparation of the mind thing, slowing down the mind or calming the mind. I know a lot of people who do the japa. Is there something you would suggest, or not at this point? It's too early. Don't worry.
Don't just see. Even japa also, you have to be counting something, right? And if you're missing some japa, supposing you count 108, and if you miss one thing, oh my God, I think I missed. So let me count again. So it actually adds you attention. So just be. I would recommend that not to get into any of these practices. And in fact, when it is required, I'll tell you that when it's required, then I will initiate you into particular mantra or something which you should do to contemplate. So that is one of the things which I do as well. When the time is right, when you require it, then I will tell you to do some things which you can do to calm your mind.
Okay, I'll just wait then, I think, rather than rushing to things.
That's nothing. Just take it easy. Just be
Yeah,
the
yeah.
person, you'll get things.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.